Well, wouldn't you know? It be yet another episode of Portland's podcast. Excellent. Take it away, lad.
And one. Alrighty. Once again, here we are at the world famous, or hopefully someday world famous, Portland Media Center for Season 2 of Between the Piers, Portland's most irreverent and hopefully no longer irrelevant podcast. I've been closely monitoring the situation with Season 1, Episode 10. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we have completely lost all idea of where it has gone. Much to the likes of Maine's mountain lion population, it tragically appears that Season 1, Episode 10 is currently off the radar. If you come across it, please let it know that I have a whoopie pie with its name on it back at the Portland Media Center. Gosh, what a story. Speaking of stories, my next guest here has some pretty incredible stories of her own to share. If I had a nickel for every time I've had a conversation about Selkies on Between the Piers, I'd have 2 nickels after today, which isn't a lot, but it has happened twice. My next guest is Kay Stevens, a journalist and author of the novel The Ghost Trap, which is now a feature-length film that is super cool. Additionally, she just released another novel, which I cannot wait to dig into further, that is about Rumrunners and Selkies, using Maine as a very, very unique backdrop for such a story. Thank you so much for taking the time to come down here and be on Between the Piers. How are you?
I am good. I'm very happy to be here, and I like your vibe, and I think you're missing episode, I don't know, I think Mulder and Scully might have something to do with it, so I think you might need to contact them on that one. So.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, no, I definitely need to figure that out for sure. It has been a whole situation. So, where did you first find your footing as an author? Was it through your journalism work or something else?
Well, honestly, I have, since I was 10 years old, wanted to be a writer, and I never really found footing until I moved to Maine back in 1993. And in Maine, I suddenly found myself surrounded by all the incredible elements that make up a compelling story, which is the atmosphere, the sea, the coastal element, the people. And, and listen, no good stories ever started over a salad. So I always was a journalist hanging out in bars with all kinds of folks to get stories for everyday, just feature stories. But it really came to light one time when I was hanging out at the Sea Dog Bar in Camden, Maine, the original, if everybody remembers that one on Mechanic Street.
So that's not the commercialized Sea Dog.
No, this was the original. Like, this is what all the copies have basically started from.
Oh, no kidding.
Oh, yeah.
And that was in Camden?
In Camden, Maine. The original Sea Dog is where all the incarnations have now franchised. Whoa. And that was an original place. It was in a mill that had been repurposed into a horseshoe bar. And every single person back in the 90s who went there was an amalgamation of fishermen and tradespeople and people who were working on schooners, people working for MB&A, people working in all kinds of walks of life who all came together in this big, huge, unwashed mass in the Sea Dog. And you would meet every sort of young person with every background there. And, conversely, I'm finding myself hanging out and talking to lobstermen quite a bit. And I'm a chatty girl, so I like to chat. And, a couple beers, they like to chat. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to hear some stories, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, all these things pinging in my brain. It's all firing off. I have a story, but big caveat here. You cannot be from away.
Yeah.
Come to Maine and tell a Maine story. And I don't have respect for people who just come for a weekend on a schooner and decide that's going to be their entire novel. I spent 10 years interviewing lobstermen, studying the culture, in the culture, vetting the culture, and making sure that when my final draft was done, it was looked over by highliners in the industry, locals in the industry, including James Atchison, the Lobster Gangs of Maine, who wrote the original blueprint on how lobstering works.
Wait, really?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you were dedicated to it.
The entire manuscript, gave me a lot of notes, and he said, good to go. Let's go.
And that was for the Ghost Trap?
Yeah.
Neat. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait to talk about that further. Wow.
So to me, as a journalist, you have to do your due diligence if you're going to write about any culture that's not yours that you've grown up in. And again, I spent a decade doing this. And I wanted to make sure that when it was all said and done, the final output was not going to be something that was all glossy that, the big six were going to be jumping at, which they didn't. But it was going to be something that the lobstering community would read and go, yeah, that's us. That's us. And that's exactly the tenor I got back is, yep, you nailed it.
That's really valuable, especially with a community as, I don't want to say reclusive because reclusive isn't the appropriate word, but a community as proud as the lobstering community in what they do. And
cloistered is a good word.
Cloistered.
Cloistered is a great word because what it really entails is this is a culture, but it's a subculture, and it is a very tight-knit culture of hardworking people and their and women as well. Women lobstermen. You don't call them lobster women, you call them lobstermen, but just a lot of men and women and parents and grandparents in this culture that know how hard that industry is, and they also know, based on the last 20 years, that their livelihood has been turned into this almost romantic caricature.
Yes. When in
so
reality,
many
it's not.
News stations have come in from Boston. So many reality show scouts have come in trying to make lobstering the next, deadliest catch. And no one has done it because that's not what they're after. The lifestyle and the culture is what they live for, not for the fame.
Right. Absolutely. It's a very thankless job. And yet they're one of the most essential. They're one of the most essential groups in Maine.
Yeah.
Right? Like when everybody thinks of Maine, you think of the red lobster on the plate with some butter, right?
And they're constantly under duress with, governmental regulations, all kinds of stuff that was going on with the right whales.
I was going to say, yeah.
I mean, they've just been under so much pressure. And I mean, it's not like the job itself isn't its own pressure, right? So, yeah, it's been so for me to get that whole tenor right was integral to writing this. Otherwise, I would not have written it.
Absolutely, yeah, and this is a very interesting avenue too, because you had to not get accepted into the community, but you had to understand enough about the community in order to present the work as authentic compared to the caricature that it commonly is.
Totally correct. And
wow.
So I am part of the culture. I have been accepted into the culture, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Yeah.
And I continue when we get into the talk about the film, how that initial authenticity carried on into the film.
Oh, absolutely. And we are 100% going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, for sure. So you came from away. Where are you from?
Yeah, good question. Nowhere. Honestly.
Nowhere. Okay.
Kid of divorced parents, bumped around a lot.
Okay.
And really never found footing until after I was in Boston for a while getting a master's degree in writing. And I just knew I couldn't live there anymore. The city wasn't for me. And I knew I had to be by the ocean. And I took a leap, came to Maine, and I just came by myself. And I just basically said, you know what, I'm just going to have to make this happen. And honestly, Maine, for the last, 33 years has been my home.
Yeah.
More than any home I've ever had in my life.
For sure. I've heard that's a very, very common response.
But I'm still from away, and I'm going to always say that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. When I was in the Park Service, I worked for the National Park Service briefly in Cape Hatteras National Seashore on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And there's that equally as strong, you're not from here vibe there. You're from away. Even though people live there 20, 30 years, the locals of the Outer Banks, the folks who have lived there their entire lives, always look at those people who came in and are like, yeah, you're still from away. And we don't care if you lived here half of your life.
It doesn't bother me one bit. I mean, honestly, I feel like the people who have been born and raised here, whose parents have been born and raised here, whose grandparents have been born and raised here, they have every right to say, you need to earn your place here.
And there's definitely an interesting dichotomy there. Earning your place is, it seems to be very common in the Maine ethos, particularly.
I think that it comes down to this. Just be cool. Just be a good person. Don't flash around. Nobody cares about what you drive, what you wear, what your background is, what your family name is, what school you went to. Just be kind, generous, giving, compassionate, and don't try to change local politics to make it look like, the same place where you left. I think that's in a nutshell. You'll fit in. Just, shut up and fit in.
Well, there you go, folks. That's the end of Between the Piers. See you all later.
All right, bye-bye.
She said exactly what you needed to say. No. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think that Portland is a great example of all of that coming to a head, right? When you get further up onto the mid-coast area, there's a little bit more buffer room, but you do see, and it's funny because in the Ghost Trap, now I see why a certain character existed, why they did.
Oh, let's get into that.
Oh, we 100% will.
Okay.
Oh, we 100% will. We're getting there, folks. So you did journalism for a while, right?
Yeah, I graduated with a journalism degree in 1990.
Okay.
Magazine journalism and print journalism. And I have, in the last 20 years, been a part-time, now full-time journalist in magazines and newspapers.
What kind of work have you done?
I work as a small-town reporter at Penn Bay Pilot. I do a lot of features for them. Previously, I worked at a mid-coast newspaper called Village Soup. That goes back spanning 1999. And I'm also the managing editor of 3 magazines.
Whoa.
And also an author and kind of a dabbling screenwriter too. So
yeah, I mean, absolutely. So was writing fiction an escape for you? Like when you would go into the Sea Dog and you'd see all these different characters coming in, did that inspire you and kind of serve as an escape through, from like the real world nonsense that you had to report on? Or was that an escape for you?
Well, I'll tell you 100%. No, that was the ultimate goal when I was 10 years old.
Oh.
I only wanted to be a fiction writer.
Yep.
I only wanted to be an author. And back in the late 70s, 80s, that was still a viable path because no internet and people read all the time. And I mean, I grew up on the classics, classic literature, and I said, wow, this is what I want to do. And so my entire career path has been focused on one day writing a book. But hey, what you know about authors is, this isn't a viable living. This is an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
So basically, moving to Maine, I had to have 5 jobs
5?
just to live. Yeah. That was the 90s. Now you got to have 10.
Oh my goodness.
No, and that was the 90s. And I worked every job known to me. I worked in a record store. I was a waitress. I was catering. I was in offices. I did everything I possibly could to keep the lights on while I wrote. Writing was the focus.
That was
Being
the dream.
an author was the absolute goal. Nothing else was.
And you made it work. You absolutely
It took 30
made it
years.
work. It took 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took you 30 years to kind of get the Ghost Trap out? Or?
Yeah, let's see. I might be wrong. Math's not my strong suit. It did come out in 2009, but I had been working actively since a teenager to be an author.
Wow. It was the goal and you saw it through.
You got to persevere. I always tell people, if you think being an author is about slapping your name and a cover together and self-publishing, that's not what it's all about. It's about learning the craft and having a story to tell and learning how to tell the story. And that's all I ever want to do.
Absolutely. Have you written any smaller pieces before the Ghost Trap? Or was
yeah.
it your...
Tons of short stories, never all rejected, of course. It's cool. No, some of them were published, but it's that hit and miss. You can't have ego around it or else you're going to flame out.
Absolutely. And that's something I've seen in the podcast world. Like occasionally I'll get an episode together and I'll be like, oh yeah, this is the one. Like this one was really good. And then I look at the metrics and I'm like, okay, back to the drawing board.
Yep.
Right?
It's always back to the drawing board. Do it because you love it.
Exactly. Don't do it because you want to get recognized for it. It's kind of been the vibe.
If ego's part of it, it's not for you, then find something else that's going to, get that ego hit. But writing is not that. It's a long journey.
Yeah, and it truly is. You do it because you love it.
Yep.
You do it because you love the craft.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I can't help but draw parallels because I, prior to this, I watched the movie The Ghost Trap, which is based on your novel. And I can't help but draw parallels to the story that you created there was very similar to the stories that I've read by John Green, the author John Green.
John Green, okay.
I think it was The Fault in Our Stars.
Yes, okay, yeah.
I think Finding Alaska.
Oh, that's a nice compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like there's this draw these days to the yearn, right? The tragic story. And The Ghost Trap is a tragic story. And I cannot wait to talk about that because I was watching it and I was sitting there with like my knuckle in my mouth like, oh my God, like what? Oh, this is so sad.
Yeah, that has its own backstory of how many people weren't happy with how sad it was. But it is, not all stories are happy endings. I think like this, life is not happy all the time. You have great moments in life that are absolutely wonderful, but there are just moments of tragedy that happen all the time. And, and honestly, in writing and in film, anybody who's behind the scenes, who's funding it, tends to want and push for the happy ending because they feel like that's the audience is going to resonate with that. In fact, with The Ghost Trap, we were told by one of the producers, potential producers, I should say, can't you make the ending a little happier? And I'm like, okay, and I'm not going to do any spoilers, but I'm thinking to myself, do you even know what the story is about? You can't put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
And you can't rewire an entire narrative to fit what you think is going to be the most money-making ending. That's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
So that's why we're an independent film.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, right? And I think that those tragic stories without a happy ending end up being a lot more controversial. Not in a bad way, but they end up getting people talking.
Well, it resonates. And I can tell you from straight up experience, not only the book, and let me just backtrack a little bit about this, Piers, but how did this happen? I'll tell you real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't instigate it. I didn't put it out there. I just got, it was lightning in a bottle. I got a email one day from a producer from LA who said, I have roots in Maine. I just came to Maine to pick up a couple of books to go to Islesboro and read for the weekend. I've read your book. This is the first book we want to produce as our film company.
Whoa, that's super cool.
I couldn't believe it. I mean,
no doubt.
I mean, I'm midlife at this point, right?
Right.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. No way. I just didn't believe it. Well, it was true. And so that was 2018, and they signed me what you call an option for the book, which means they basically say, what are your rights on the book? And I say, well, my publisher has the rights on the book, but they don't have the rights on an adaptation of the book into a film. I have those rights. And they said, well, we'll pay you for those rights, and we're going to sit on the option of it for a long time until we decide when we get enough funding to make it. Well, this is like moving right into 2020, COVID. So everything went haywire, right? And the screenwriter they had lined up couldn't work. And then they said to me in 2020, 21, they said, hey, I'm going to come back to you. Now that we have the option to your book, how about we hire you to be the screenwriter to adapt your book? Have you ever adapted a novel into a screen? Have you ever written a screenplay? I'm like, nope.
Oh.
But I will do it.
Wow.
And in 3 months, I watched a lot of YouTube videos on how to adapt. I bought 3 books on how to adapt. And in 3 months, I had a ready-made script for them. And I expected it to be one of those things where you hand it into the teacher and you're going to come back with like 1,000 red marks. This sucks, this sucks, this sucks. And I got the feedback, this is excellent. It's exactly what we want. We're running with it.
And there you go. So you kind of, this is a crazy parallel to make, but have you ever heard the song Just a Friend by Biz Markie?
Yeah.
So so you know the reference I'm going to make? He originally hired a professional singer to come in and do the singing part, and the guy just didn't show up that day. So Biz is like, oh man, well, I guess I'll do it myself.
That's it.
And it ended, Biz is, to his credit, not a good singer, right?
I have that song in my ear right now.
Yep. And that's exactly it, right? Because it was so bad that people were like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the exact thing. You stepped up to the plate and you ended up making it what it is.
I had no idea whether it was going to be a hit or a miss. It was a hit.
Sure was.
To my absolute surprise. And then also to my surprise, after COVID sort of wound down, there's a key scene in the Maine Lobster Festival in Rockland, Maine, in both the book and I penned it in the screenplay. I said, hey, why don't you come down in 2022 when they're finally open again because they'd been closed and shoot some B-roll, right? And they said, well, we're going to do you one better. We're shooting the whole movie this summer.
Oh.
And they said, oh, and by the way, we want you to be an executive producer.
Oh.
And by the way, you're going to do location scout. You're going to be in charge of helping find cast, the locations, costumes. You're going to help with dialogue. You're going to do all kinds of script consultant. You're going to be on set. And that was 2022 for the entire summer. And let's go refocus back on the authenticity of Lobsterman again. I brought in my two besties, two Lobstermen, and without them, the movie would not have been made. Actually, three besties, Ryan Post and Sherry Savage, husband-wife, and we also have my best friend.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. So you came into this and you just became so much more essential to the process than you were expecting.
So much more essential to the process. Dan Merriam also, was my other friend. And all of us were part of a movie set for a good July, August into September in Midcoast, Maine. And we filmed in probably 4 or 5 locations in Midcoast. And it was all because of those guys, because a lot of the filming was on water with our 2 boats.
Yeah.
And it was a roller coaster. I've never been part of anything like that before. I always equate it to being on a super fast train while you're still laying down track.
Oh, wow.
And, there would be 14 to 16-hour days, and they still didn't know where they were going to be the next morning to shoot.
Wow.
And
that was your responsibility to find that next spot?
No.
Okay.
Thank God, or else I would not be here today. I would have been dead with a heart attack. But that was all of the production. I was on set as executive producer, consultant, spoke with the cast a lot. Sometimes we worked with dialogue, and again, a dream come true. Somebody my age in my 50s, that doesn't happen ever. And also, you look at it like this way. Even Stephen King in his early days, he wasn't given that kind of access to a film. I was given total access to my own film, and it was an incredible experience. There was drama, but there wasn't the kind of fall apart kind of drama that makes you go, oh my God, I wish I was never a part of this. I'm so grateful to be a part of it and have had that entire experience,
Wow. What kind of drama? I can't help but wonder.
Oh, things like, Midcoast Maine's a working town.
Yes.
You get film crew coming in here. That doesn't happen a whole lot because Maine doesn't have the same film incentives that, North Carolina, LA does and all that.
Right.
And so it's a working waterfront, and my only ambassadors are Dan and Ryan.
Right. And you got these lobstermen who are like, what are you doing here?
Yeah. I mean, we're holding up the dock. We're filming scene after scene. People need to come in on the dock. We, with their connections, came into, it's like a boat. It was like a boathouse.
Yeah.
That we overstayed our welcome, and they got mad.
They got mad at you.
And they said, get out.
Whoa.
I mean, we had things that happened like that. We had a truck that was integral to several scenes that we had bought secondhand, and it died in the first scene. You got continuity shots. We had one member, Sarah Catherine Hook, who plays Happy. She got COVID in the first week before she was set to film.
Remind me, is Happy the store?
Happy's the dark-haired girl who's the
the sailor.
Yeah, the sailor.
Oh.
And so she had to delay coming to film, and we had to move the whole schedule around that too. There was just all kinds of crazy stuff like that. One of our producers came to get on set, and he got COVID.
Oh.
Yeah. It was fun times.
Wow, that's incredible. Also, I got to say, I absolutely love the name The Ghost Trap. And I have so much to say about this. My second interview on Between the Piers was a scuba diver who has worked adjacent to the Ghost Trap project quite a bit.
Yeah.
They're a very, very real thing in Maine.
Yeah.
These traps that just vanish. You know what I mean? You lose them and they're just down there. And they can cause a fair amount of environmental damage.
Yeah, they can.
Yep. Additionally, I think that ghost traps are the perfect analogy for a tragic loss with a Maine flavor. This is the part where I was writing these notes and I'm like, oh, I get it. right? Lobster traps are such a cornerstone for the livelihoods of many in this state, right? And a lost trap is a loss of livelihood. It's a loss of sustenance.
It's a loss of identity.
A loss of identity. And it's a tragedy.
Yeah.
Right? Losing your trap, it's a loss of, like you said, identity.
Right.
So
and it's something that is absolutely, you nailed it with the metaphor of that. And so many people still get it confused. They think that Ghost Trap is about a horror movie or a horror book because it has the word ghost in it. And then, to my absolute hatred, the franchise of Ghostbusters reimagined the whole ghost trap thing, the little contraption that they capture the ghost in.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So that, something stuck in the 80s got revived and then had a whole new meaning again, which competed with my title, I can't remember if that came out before or after the revival of the new movies, but, and then everybody's like, oh, is this about Ghostbusters? I'm like,
not even remotely.
Kill me now.
Not even remotely. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and that just goes to show, right?
I say this and then, the Ghostbusters fan club, they're going to come after me, but
Ghostbusters still is a fan club?
Huge.
Oh dear. Whoops. Shots fired on Between
not
the Piers.
not as big as Taylor, but let's not
let's not
ruffle some feathers.
Aggravate the Ghostbusters fan club and get a what was it called? Well, with Taylor Swift, it's called Tay Voodoo. Have you ever heard about this?
I thought it was the Swifties.
No, they're the Swifties. But there's this thing called Tay Voodoo, which is like where if you, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
Basically, what it is it's where if you have the audacity to speak ill of Taylor Swift, the Swifties will put a hex on you. It's called Tay
and that's
Voodoo.
why we claim no evil here. Okay.
We do not claim any evil.
We claim no evil over Taylor Swift
or
Ghostbusters. We love them all.
We love you, Ghostbusters.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yep. Okay. I think that's a good place to put a cap on that. Okay. I am a huge fan of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, for sure. So have you ever had a moment where you had to step away? Like when you're writing The Ghost Trap, I mean, it's visceral, it's raw, and I cannot wait to read it. And I don't like reading, so I'm like really stoked to actually read this. But have you ever had a moment where you were writing something and the scene was unfolding as it does? You're taken over by this creative power as you're writing this story and creating these characters and their thoughts and their dreams and their emotions and their pain. You just had to take a step away.
Well, yeah, and I think that after, and you give yourself... I took 10 years to write it, so there was plenty of times to step away. I mean, some authors, they're on a strict schedule of, my publisher is requesting a book out every year, and I need to get on that horse and just bang, bang, bang it out. But for me, I wrote when I wanted to because no one was putting a flame to me to do this. I was doing it when I wanted to. And so what happens in the process is I don't outline anything. I have a basic concept, and then what happens is I'm driving or I'm walking or something where my subconscious is engaged with a physical activity. All of a sudden I see the movie play out in my mind. The dialogue plays out. I see the entire scene. And then it's my responsibility to capture it. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'd be falling asleep at, 10 o'clock at night and the scene would start unveiling itself to me and be like, God damn it. I have to get up and have to write it down.
I've absolutely had that happen as well. I used to kind of just do creative writing on the side. I always deleted everything I wrote. And I guess you could say that this is kind of the Between the Piers is kind of an extension of that, right? And I've had moments where you're just getting ready, settled into something. You're like, oh, wait, I got to write that down. Write that down. I've absolutely had that happen
Always keep a notebook if you're a writer in any case, because you just never know, even just something in your purse or your back pocket, because like a snippet of so much of the Ghost Trap is snippets of dialogue or scenarios or something that I also saw firsthand and said, oh, this has got to go in. It's basically a recipe. A book is a recipe, and you're constantly putting your own spin on it.
Absolutely. Did you write The Ghost Trap out of order? Like, did you have moments? The reason I ask,
completely out of order,
because you have a moment where you're doing something. You're like, wait, no, this is the scene that needs to happen here. So you put that in here, and then you just kind of mix and match, and eventually the entire plot comes together. But you're like, wait, no, hold on.
Yep.
I need to write this part today. I don't care if it's like 3 weeks after what I currently have.
Absolutely. And again, every writer has their own way that they do their process. But for me, I write it and I put it together, but I don't put the editor on my shoulder until it's absolutely a first draft is done.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be as messy and completely out of order and doesn't make sense as possible. And that's where your freedom comes from. Because if you have that little editor on your shoulder constantly saying, well, your grammar's not right here, or you didn't do this doesn't work with scene A or whatever, you are going to hamper what the creativity is. So I get messy with the first draft all the time. I'm just like, I'm going to throw everything at the wall, see what happens. And then when everything settles down, kind of like, you've baked something and now you need to let it rest. That's where the editor comes in and starts being like, okay, I'm going to be the general here and we're going to start making some order out of this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you find that when authors are rushed like that, when the publisher's like, yeah, you need a book every year, do you think that the quality of what they come up with ultimately falters?
I wouldn't know because I've never had that conflict before. I've never been with a publisher that has said, we're going to give you a 3-book deal. So I don't know what goes through the minds of people who are writers who have to be on a schedule, but I imagine it's a lot like, again, one of my favorite heroes everybody always talks about is Stephen King. He would have a schedule and he would just get up in the morning. Look, he may not even be inspired to write anything, but he'd bang out pages. And I imagine that's what folks who have to be under a contract would have to do.
Wow.
I never did that. I always wrote when it hit me.
And so what you've created here is just truly authentic versus like, I don't really feel like doing this. Because every single time you wrote, you were there. You were like, I am good. This is what I want. This is what I'm doing. And it just came out naturally.
Well, I think with both my books, it's kind of understood that I didn't have a contract. There was nobody waiting in the wings going, we're waiting for this.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote both those books. And by the way, by the Dark of the Moon also took 10 years. I'm not a prolific writer. I mean, my next book, I'm going to be in a nursing home. I'm telling you this right now. But all of these books are done because they had to be done and had to be written at that moment. They were never under deadlines, so that gave me an immense amount of freedom. But also is scary because you're like, oh, I just invested a decade in something I don't even know if it's going to be published. But I took that risk.
And you got a movie out of it.
Yeah, now that, couldn't have seen that coming.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Do you use the same literary style when you're writing versus when you're journaling? Or are they two separate?
Different.
Okay.
Totally different, yeah.
How's that?
Well, with journalism, let's just put it this way. With journalism and with books and with screenwriting, each format has to be different.
Sure.
Because each format has a different audience and each format is dictated by the rules of the format. So, for example, journalism is who, what, where, when, how. Get to the point, do it quick. And if you write a feature, throw some flourish in there, but don't put your ego on the page, right? Screenwriting is very similar. Cut and dry. Don't get too wordy. Don't be spending entire pages on description. Get to the dialogue, get to the action. Now, those two formats are very cut and dry, which is why I love being an author, because an author, you can go tangent out to Mars if you want.
Yeah. It's your writing. It's your writing and you can do it how you want it.
Yeah. And it either flies or it flops.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. And it's interesting, again, because the Ghost Trap takes place in Maine, right? And I think that Maine, especially the more isolated regions of Maine, like the mid-coast area, which isn't necessarily isolated, but I don't know. Have you ever been to Machias? That's isolated.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I've been to all parts of Maine, actually.
Nice. They serve as the perfect backdrop for a tragedy romance like this, right? Have you read Almost Maine? The play?
I have not read the play. I've heard all about it though, and I know about the screenwriter, and yeah, I mean that is perfectly a great example of small town tragic.
Oh my goodness,
great Maine,
Oh man, Almost Maine. Really, I saw it when I was in. Oh god. Oh, I was 20. No, I'm 26 now. When I was in high school. I saw it when I was like 17. They did it at a local high school, and a friend of mine was in it. So I drove up to, or I got driven up. I don't remember. I was young. And I saw it, and just like it really hit in a way that I resonated with, right? It's just like this, it takes place in this like township in the middle of nowhere. There's like all of like 15 people living there. The ambience is incredible. The story is tragic in this really beautiful way. They're exploring so many different themes. And Maine is just the perfect backdrop for all that, because Maine just kind of has this mysticism to it.
It really does. And I think that the state, and I think the statistics, I don't know them off the top of my head, prove it, but there is a huge concentration of authors and screenwriters and artists here because the state is so lending itself to the background of beauty and mystery, horror, and tragedy in a lot of ways. I mean, the sea in itself is just, how many stories have you heard about where the sea is the backdrop to something tragic, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this place draws people.
Yeah.
And I need to go watch that movie, Almost Maine. I've heard so much about it.
Is it a movie?
Is it a movie?
It's a play.
Oh, it's a play.
I think it's
okay.
a play.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they turned it into a movie. I might
if
be
they
wrong on
did,
that. Yeah.
I mean, if they need actors for it, let me know.
They sure do.
Oh, well, I mean, let me know.
Okay.
I'm around. I'm doing stuff. I'm here. Do you have any other pieces you're currently working on?
I'm kind of in just a promotional mode right now for By the Dark of the Moon. So I'm on a book tour this summer, and summer into fall. And I just was down in New Hampshire doing a book signing.
Yeah.
And I think every weekend going into the fall, hopefully, we'll have some kind of a book signing, or what we like to do are sip-and signs, because the new book is about Prohibition and Maine. And man, there's nothing I love better than to have a sip with somebody and talk about Prohibition in Maine.
Oh man, that's super, super cool. And then it also has Selkies in it, which...
And Selkies, yeah.
So this is a crazy thing to drop on Between the Piers, but anybody who watched episode 3 knows that I am also, in addition to all the wild side quests I've gone on, the first professionally certified merman in the state of Maine.
Elaborate.
Okay, so mermaiding is a performative form of freediving that is regulated by, my certification is through PADI, the Professional Association of Diving Instructors. My friend, Angel Dapolito, also known as Mercara the Mermaid, is the only instructor north of Baltimore, right? And she's like, well, I've certified all these mermaids, but I've never had a merman, because of the stereotypes and the gender.
I've seen this all kinds of ways. No, but usually it's in like a huge tank and you have your own fish fin and you're performing in front of crowds. All right, but is there something like that exists in Maine? So
there is a group. It's called Mainly Mermaids. There's no performative aspect of it yet because it's still getting its footing. But there is a group called Mainly Mermaids, and you get certified and you get a tail and you can just hang out with all these like-minded people. They like to sip wine. They like to do all the
I love
tricks
this
and stuff. Yes.
In such a way I can't even express, like, God. I'd much rather sit around with a bunch of mermaids and mermen than, watch sports. So
right?
Really,
oh my goodness, great. Yeah, no, it's a thing. And yeah, they meet at the pool and they all do like tricks and stuff. Apparently there's Mermaid Olympics too.
Oh, I can't even.
Isn't this cool?
I love it.
Yeah. It's like there's Mermaid Olympics where they like they do like all these competitions, and like you have to be able to do these tricks and stuff, which by the way aren't easy. For my certification, I had to swim the entire length of a swimming pool underwater, holding my breath in a tail.
Did you get to the fin-ish line?
I did, actually, if you can believe it, because I still don't believe it. So then there was the finish line is crazy. Then there's the thing of choosing a persona.
Oh.
Right? And it's like a whole thing, and it's like a very, very, very strong thing within the mermaiding community in creating this character. So I was in a unique spot where it's like, well, I don't want to go with the standard tail, right? Because, that's very catered towards mermaids.
So what does a merman outfit look like?
You're going to love this.
Okay.
I'm a Selkie.
Oh, well.
Yes. So my tail was custom made in South Africa to my exact measurements, which were significantly different than any of the other ones. And it is a seal tail. Gray. I think it's a gray seal. My fin, my mono fin, fits in it. You unzip it, you put it in, and it has two little. You know how like seals have like
what is the fins?
Like the flippers.
Yeah,
that
the flippers.
Seals have. So it has two little flippers.
Oh my god!
So it's a Selkie. So
just going back into the cultural aspect of that, the mermaids and the Selkies are absolutely Celtic cousins. You know that, right?
Wait, really? Tell me more.
No. This is so perfect because I've studied a lot of Selkie history. Again, as a journalist, I went to Ireland, Scotland, and England from 2015 and on. I've been back multiple times to study origin stories, collect them from storytellers and from libraries. And so mermaids and Selkies are of the same Celtic line of sea folk who are magical.
Whoa.
So, you everybody knows what the Little Mermaid is, but very few people know what a Selkie is. And of course, there's the Secret of Roanoke Nish that is a film that sort of does a little bit of background on it. But really, a mermaid and a Selkie, if the readers or the listeners don't know, is a seal that can shapeshift into a human by removing his or her skin, just exactly like a mermaid can remove her fishtail or a merman his fishtail to become a human. And this is all based in Celtic history.
That's really interesting. But in Hans Christian Andersen, that's who wrote The Little Mermaid, right? Hans Christian Andersen. Is it Ariel? Is she called Ariel in that?
I don't remember.
I don't think she is.
I don't remember.
Disney kind of took The Little Mermaid and made it into what it is now. But it was a novel originally written by Hans Christian Andersen. Can she just take it off? Can you just take it off?
Oh gosh, without reading it, I don't know, because each tale, and you remember these tales, and I'm not saying Tales. I'm talking about I'm sorry, not Tails. I'm talking about fairy tales.
These stories, yeah.
The stories are all originated from folklore.
Right.
Folklore comes from small towns, small enclaves, small little coastal enclaves. And so these would be oral stories that somebody captured and put down into a short story.
Oh.
And that's where fairy tales and folk tales come from. And everything I've read from Selkies, and I can't say that I've gotten into the mermaid culture or lore, but for Selkies, that all tends to be seaside little short
Hamlets
stories that were
and,
handed down.
Yep. So there runs the risk of being the telephone effect, where something gets changed, something gets enunciated, and then you end up with a finished product on paper that is significantly different than the products that it started with.
Right, but then what inspired the By the Dark of the Moon, and it was briefly mentioned in the Ghost Trap, and you're going to see there's a little section on Selkies in the Ghost Trap. I did talk to a friend who came from an island background, and the story goes that his grandfather saw somebody show up on an island one day who shouldn't have been on the island. Now, you don't just show up on an island. We're talking in the 1918, 1920. And I might be getting this wrong a little bit, but the entire town started a rumor that that person who showed up was a Selkie.
Oh, wow. And this was in Maine?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So there, and I could go into the deep dive of finding on the internet what other old tales from the U.S. have Selkies in them. But because fishermen have always had a contentious relationship with seals, going back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Oh, yeah.
Not just on the east coast of the United States, but also in Ireland and Scotland on those coasts.
Right, because the seal are eating your food.
Right. Well, but there's also slaughters of seals.
Yeah.
And so there's always been a contentious relationship between fishermen and seals going back in time. And because the Ghost Trap has lobstermen who, there have been some disgruntled, not all, but some disgruntled lobstermen are angry that seals are so smart that they know how to steal bait out of traps. Some have been shot.
Is that why there's the very tense, not to spoil the Ghost Trap at all, but is that why there's that very tense standoff where they both produce rifles?
That tense standoff has to do with territory.
Sure.
But, to answer your question, it all comes down to territory with animals and humans too.
Right.
So if a seal is stealing from a lobsterman, he's taking away his territory. And there have been, until there was like the Marine Mammal Act, lobstermen would shoot seals. Now, what I did was I took that same tension and that same cultural relevance, and I brought it back into Penobscot Bay in the era of 1927. And in this case, the Selkies are a colony right off of Penobscot Bay in several colonies. And, the tension's still there, but what the fishermen don't understand is that the Selkies aren't just these benign animals that are just going to roll over when you hurt them. They're a warrior culture.
Okay.
And this warrior culture is not about to let this island of fishermen get away with what they're getting away with.
Oh, this is so cool. So it does have that gritty...
dark, grim dark.
Oh, it is grim dark. Okay, so it's not as fantastical as...
No, this is...
Oh, shoot.
I've had some people a little disappointed because they thought they were going to read The Little Mermaid. I'm like, you don't know my mind.
Oh, man.
My mind goes to dark places, and these seals and these seal colonies, these Selkie colonies, they're not playing.
Oh, they're not playing around?
No.
Oh, so I thought just by the dark of the moon, I was like, this is going to be like a whimsical, fantastical novel.
Oh, no.
And okay. Nice. I'm super into that. And I understand that this was more of a passion project for you, given your Irish heritage.
Yes, yeah. Really passion project for that.
Can you go a little bit more in depth on it?
Yeah, I've moved here for the sea, and I'm not the only author. I'm not the only artist who has been inspired by it, so it's nothing, special about that. But the fact that my ancestors in Ireland also made their living by the sea, all 4 of my great-great-grandparents hailed from Cork, Ireland.
Are they Rebels fans?
Well, what I understand was, just from studying their history, they were rebels in general against the English.
Well, I'm referring to the hurling team, the Cork Rebels.
Would not know.
Oh, fair enough.
Again, I hate sports, so I don't care.
Well, you gotta watch hurling. Hurling's actually, I totally get it. Sports, especially American sports, boring.
Yeah.
But hurling is so fast-paced.
If I had to watch sports over and over, I'd be hurling.
Yeah.
I mean hurling.
Oh, you'd be hurling.
Yeah, I'd be hurling. Like, ugh.
Oh.
Okay, so anyway.
Fair enough. But because County Cork is the Rebels, and they are
there's
proud.
a reason they're called the Rebels, and the entire culture of Cork, Ireland, are anti-authority, and it goes back hundreds of years against the English. And that seriously anti-authority, anti-mainstream has filtered down into my generation, to who I am. And honestly, just the grittiness of fighting against injustice is what is pretty much a big, huge thread through By the Dark of the Moon.
I'm so excited to read this book. You have no idea.
I got to get you that one too.
Please. Did you feel a sense of internal pride creating such a novel?
Yes, because there's also a feminine retribution.
Nice.
Because there is just female disempowerment throughout the entire novel.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was the time.
Yeah.
It was 1920s. Figure this, most women were, they were working alongside their husbands on an island, but they didn't get to have their own bank accounts. They didn't have money. They didn't have their own home. Everything was deeded into the husband's home.
Sure. And
women had no power. And when you give a Selkie colony power, it's largely also matriarchal too.
Yep.
There's a lot of female power in Selkie colonies based on the Irish history that I've read.
That's badass. Oh, that's really, really cool. And they kind of bring that female feminine power against the prohibitionist the Rumrunners.
Yes. And then the other side of it too is, again, injustice. So in Prohibition times, only the rich were allowed to keep just crates and crates of illegal liquor in their basements for their guests coming in from Philadelphia and Massachusetts, while the rest of us plebes, the working class, were thrown into jail for having the same want.
For having a cup of beer.
Yeah. And so you had this class distinction, too, that was totally unjust. And so the Rumrunners, I think, based on, I'm making this claim, I don't know if it can be verified, but literally since Maine was the first state in the United States some 71 years to enact prohibition before the rest of the United States enacted it. And was it 1921?
Okay.
I think it was 21. The only people who had access to running liquor off these three-masted schooners off the 3 Mile line were lobstermen and fishermen.
Wow. Yep.
So my claim is that lobstermen and fishermen were the first rum runners of the United States.
And they were ours, like Maine's rum runners. Oh man, that's really interesting.
So I make that claim. Nobody has so far, pushed back. Nobody's contested me on it. But, the fact that rum runners against the Coast Guard are another huge element of this book.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited to read this book. That's so fascinating. Yeah. I knew that rum running was really big in the central to southern Atlantic, in like the Outer Banks of North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like the phrase "Kill Devil Hills." Do you know why it's called that?
I don't know that.
So because rum back in the day was known as Kill Devil, right? Because the Outer Banks, they said their rum was so strong it could kill the devil, right?
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of folklore regarding Kill Devil and rum running in that time, right? So Kill Devil Hills were the hills where the rum was being, as I understand it, and I was never an interpretive ranger. I was just the one who made sure you had your permits to be on the beach. And I did a fair amount of introspection and like looking into it. And yeah, because that was where they were creating and running that rum.
Yeah.
That Kill Devil.
Kill Devil, yeah.
Kill Devil
There's
Hills.
so many little terms here. I mean, Blind Pig is one, which is an establishment that is serving illegal liquor, and it's serving as a front as a legitimate restaurant or a place. What else is there? There's all kinds of little ones, little expressions, but we have quite a few speakeasies in Maine, and where this takes place in the book is in Rockland.
Yep.
And I was the first journalist to ever photograph 2 of the only well-known speakeasies in Rockland before they were converted into apartments and to a different, into like industrial spaces. So I have photographs of these places, particularly one on Main Street that has, going up the stairs, there's all kinds of signatures going back from 1918 of I was here, and just hundreds of them. And these places it's always attics and basements for speakeasies, and that ends up in the book as well. And so basically I photographed these places and I did stories on them. There's actually one on Penn Bay Pilot, The Hidden Speakeasies of Rockland, Maine. You can look it up.
I absolutely will be looking it up, yes. And we're not talking about like Lincoln's. We're talking about real speakeasies.
Real places, real speakeasies before the cops shut them down. I studied. I took a lot of articles from the Rockland Historical Society to find out where they were, and then I went and found them.
Oh wow, that's super super cool. Wow, there were 2 speakeasies in Rockland.
Yeah, there was one on Main Street in Rockland, and then there was one underneath the Thorndike Hotel, which was right down the street from all the dock of where all the sailors were coming in, the roughnecks and all that. And that was a roughneck kind of speakeasy where there was all kinds of booze flowing through, but also, prostitutes and stuff like that. Rockland was a really rough place.
Really?
Oh,
you would not
20s.
expect that nowadays.
Look at it now. It's all cleaned up now. But yeah, no, back then. And they used to have also what you would call gentlemen's clubs, which would be these rented out apartments in Rockland where a bunch of, like what you call like back in the day, frat boys would rent them just to have a space to bring all their homemade beer and all their liquor that they would get from the rum runners. And then the sheriffs in those days, they would just, they'd look the other way because they could make more money off each case of booze that came in than they would on their yearly salary.
So it's entirely corrupt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like it is entirely corrupt.
Yeah, the gears were working.
Oh, for sure.
For the working class back then.
Yeah, no. And by the dark of the moon, excuse me, you have all these factions.
Yeah.
Do the gentlemen's clubs make a significant point in the story?
There's a mention of them. There was one scene I actually had to cut out. I might put into a future novel. But these would be mostly places where young men would hang out.
Yep.
And mostly just like a clubhouse for boys, you know. And when speakeasy really took off with women is because they put toilets in these buildings, because young women aren't going to, out of modesty, go down 3 flights of stairs and go pee in the bushes. That is just absolutely not done for a young woman. So once they put these little water closets in, which the one place I photographed had a water closet, this is where it started to lure young women in the 20s. And then also these spirits that were being made that were appealing to young women, such as the bee's knees. So that's a cocktail with like honey and vodka and lemon. And they were making these very cushy cocktails for young women in the 20s, which meant that they were starting to become more independent too. If they had a bathroom, if they had nice cocktails, if the boys were buying that for them, they were defying their parents and going to these illicit speakeasies here in Rockland, Maine.
Oh, wow. I did not realize that Rockland had this deep rum running history. This is a really fascinating part of Maine that just always gets glossed over.
Yeah, nobody's really talked about it.
Yeah, no, except in your novel by the Dark of the Moon.
And in some of the stories I've written as a journalist. So
yes, you're kind of like you've kind of shared another Maine story, which is another theme here on Between the Piers. I had a Griffin William Sherry from The Ghost of Paul Revere and now his own solo act. The Ballad of the 20th Maine serves to conserve a Maine story that is, washed away by all the other things that you find in Maine.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And, he makes the claim that if it weren't for the 20th Maine's involvement on Little Round Top, they wouldn't have forced Pickett's charge, which you could hypothetically make the claim that the 20th Maine was essential to us winning the Civil War. And these are the stories that wouldn't be here if it weren't for artists like Griffin and artists like you.
Well, and then here you are preserving these stories on podcast for years and years to come because maybe all of this will be wiped out someday. But the fact is that you're interviewing people who actually have access to stories where I have interviewed people, 40 years older than me, 50 years older than me that had access to stories. We're just keeping them alive through now modern media.
Absolutely. And that was the goal of Between the Piers. The weird seagull was just a marketing ploy. So how do you balance the historical accuracy with the Selkies being a fantastical aspect to it? Now, the Selkies are not they're not campy, right?
No.
And you don't want this to descend into campiness.
It's grounded history. It's a grounded historical. It's not high fantasy. It's not Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
If I were going to say it was more, the books of True Blood where vampires were living amongst the swamps of Louisiana and the people working in, working class. That's more to the point of where By the Dark of the Moon is. These Selkies are seals as far as any human knows. But to do the world building of making them who they are, that took many years to research and be authentic about it so that there's a whole, social structure. There's a religious structure. There's a spiritual structure. There's the actual language of the Selkies I had to work out. And in the back of the book, you'll find out why some of the wording of the Selkies seems so foreign and weird, because it's an actual subculture that I had to world build for years.
Is it Gaelic? Do they speak Gaelic?
Yeah, it's like a hybridization of Gaelic, modern English, 20th century English, and Scottish.
Whoa.
But enough that you as a reader can read it and not be completely blown. You have to go to a glossary. No, I don't want to do that. I just want the reader to be immersed in the world, but realize you're not just dealing with 20th century, slang Selkies. There's a whole world that you are not part of.
Yeah.
That you're going to start to see into.
So this is interesting, right? Because this reminds me of, ironically, a scene from The Godfather. I think it's The Godfather. It's either Godfather or Goodfellas, where a very tense scene unfolds and they start speaking in Italian. And they start speaking in Italian so that the people who listen that don't speak Italian have no idea what's being said. And they had to rely on the actors' mannerisms and expressions. And it's kind of the same thing with these Selkies.
Yes, because Selkies, like vampires, cannot be known to human. Or else they will be exterminated by human.
Of course.
So they have to blend and have to assimilate, and they have to, and this goes back, I didn't make that up. This goes back to folktales going back to the early 19th century, late 18th century. Selkies had to assimilate with island people.
Yep.
And Selkies sometimes mated with island people.
And that creates, would that have been a Selkie, or would that have been a...
It would have been a hybrid Selkie, and so many of the folktales that to this day come out are if a child is born with webbing between the fingers, like so there's like extra skin between the fingers, people would say that was the product of a mating of a Selkie and a human being.
Wow.
And so Selkies in this book have to assimilate. They cannot be known. And the main character, Eileen, her daughter is kidnapped by the Rumrunner, and she comes on island to protect her, and she has to assimilate with all the island people to pretend that she's just a widow who got shipwrecked on the island, and her whole point is to try to find that sealskin so she can bring her back.
It sounds very heavily inspired by the story that you had said earlier about the person who just showed up on the island.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's where it sparked.
That's really, really neat. Other than Selkies, what aspects of Irish folklore interested you? This reminds me a lot of, like, have you watched Sinners? The new movie Sinners with Michael B. Jordan?
Not yet, no.
If I had a nickel for every time we talked about Sinners on Between the Piers, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's happened twice. They bring the Irish heritage into it because the vampires that try to crash the party, if you will, are Irish, right? So they sing The Rocky Road to Dublin. They sing Will You Go, Lassie, Go? And it's because what happens is one of the characters, he has this moment where he sings so powerfully and so dynamically that it attracts this negative spirit. And these
I
negative
gotta watch
spirits.
this.
Yes.
I gotta watch this. This is so up my alley here. No.
Yep. It attracts these negative spirits that are these vampires all the way from Ireland. And it's such a fascinating thing. And it seems very similar to what's going on here.
Yeah, and I've got to say, since I was a teenager, I've always been fascinated by the underworld, by the dark world, by the mystic world, by vampires and fairies. And fairies are another Irish culture subcategory that I've studied intensely. And again, the kind of things that are brought from Ireland and Scotland and then Disneyfied to sell lunch boxes to little kids. But if you really knew, and if you'd ever gone over to Ireland and talked to people, which I have, fairies and Selkies and some of the other whole slew of folkloric animals, they're not nice.
No.
They are to be feared.
Yep.
In fact, they are the other world, and they are the entities that demand respect. And if humans, which drove fairies down underground, that's the folklore.
Fairies are subterranean?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So fairies were driven underground, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And I don't know how the folklore got where they became tiny because they used to be human size. Huh. But they have such an antipathy towards human beings. They hate human beings that they reluctantly, when they come above ground every spring, they will live amongst them. And in Ireland, it's true. Like, people in Ireland believe fairies are real. They won't even build a road near a fairy rath for fear that fairy rath will come back and absolutely decimate their family's house, burn it, kill the cattle, curse them, even take them and take their children and take them underground. Real people in Ireland do believe this. And once I've been over there, I was like, woo, this is something that that United States people do not know anything about.
Wow. So that's really fascinating, but I do have to ask, what is a fairy rath?
A fairy rath, let's say you go into a meadow and you see a ring of mushrooms. It's a ring. That would be the ring to basically be the barrier to do not cross that ring. You are going to go into another realm if you do.
Whoa, this reminds me of the Spiderwick Chronicles.
And then a hawthorn tree is another piece of the fairy puzzle. If you come near a hawthorn tree in Ireland, you better watch your step because people have disappeared. And you're going to think I'm crazy saying this, but this is all on record. I'm not making this up. This is all on record. People have disappeared and come back 7 years later and had no memory that they disappeared. They thought they were gone for a day.
Wow. Well, my God. Wait, that's like the plot of, isn't that the plot of the...
That's the plot of a lot of stuff right now, yeah.
Yeah, the plane that goes missing and they come back and they're like,
no, I mean,
50 years later, they're
Irish
like, what
and
happened?
Scottish and English people are like, don't mess with the fairies.
Oh my gosh. See, I don't think you're crazy because when I've worked around, I haven't worked around, but I've gone up Mount Katahdin, right? And Katahdin is a very, very interesting mountain in terms of spirituality. right?
Yes, it is.
When you look at Mount Washington in New Hampshire, it's kind of been commercialized, right? There's a cafe, you can buy pizza on top of it, but still, Mount Washington's traditional name is Agiochachuk, means land of the great wind,
Right.
right? And occasionally there's still that power up there that snaps and kills somebody.
Yeah, and I mean, Katahdin is a Native American mountain, so...
Yes, it is. And Katahdin's even more, in my opinion, even more to be respected than Washington.
Absolutely.
So I've been up there numerous times, and I've had numerous trips up Katahdin get derailed by lightning and thunder. And if you know anything about the Katahdin mythos, there's a spiritual guardian, the deity Pomola. And Pomola protects Katahdin very fiercely in my personal experiences.
Which is why it makes the people who really respect that mountain angry when somebody comes up and disrespects the mountain by breaking the rules and doing things that are egotistical. And there's this whole understanding that you are breaking a spiritual pact by bringing your ego up this mountain.
Oh my goodness gracious. There is a significant event that happened recently on Katahdin, and I won't get into it. Can
we Google it though?
No, I know exactly what it is. I just don't want to get into it on.
Yeah, okay.
There was an incident with a particular trail runner who...
Isn't it one of the things you don't take alcohol and drink it up there and spill it on the mountain?
Yeah. And they sprayed champagne all over it.
So that was against the spiritual rules.
Absolutely was. And what did that lead to? That led to a beehive forming up there because the beehive formed, and now the park rangers had to expend a lot of energy to remove this beehive because they were, causing conflicts with hikers. And you know what's really good at smelling sugar? Bears, right? So you had all these black bears that were making their way up Katahdin because they smelled the sugar, right? And that increases bear hiker connections, which is never a good thing, right? It does mostly end well, but it's not something you want, which, so that led to a significant amount of ecological problems, not to mention breaking the spiritual pact.
Right. And this kind of, I'm just going to bring this right back to the exact plot of By the Dark of the Moon. It's an ecological story of the inharmonious imbalance between man and animal.
Oh my goodness gracious.
And how the disrespect towards the sea and the disrespect towards the animals who are her children will come back on the humans.
Okay, so I'm going to make a plea to you.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered writing a novel about Maine's mountainous regions in terms of using that as a backdrop and the spiritual connection there?
Well, I'll tell you what, that would have to take me another 10 years.
All right, well, I got time, man.
There are other qualified writers who have made that their lore and their background, and, there's only so much you can invest your time in and your energy. And again, so many wonderful, excellent writers who have delved into the history and spirituality of Maine that I don't know if I'd want to step on toes of somebody who has actually made that their lore.
Fair enough.
I've just basically taken my own Irish background and tried to do as much as I can with it without stepping on toes,
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. So I guess the question that is inevitably going to arise is, do you think there's going to be a movie adaptation of By the Dark of the Moon?
We've talked about it with my producers, but I'll tell you what, we would need millions and millions of dollars to recreate 1920s lobster boats in towns, and not to mention CGI for Selkies. This does not lend itself to a one-act type of easy $1 million feature.
Sure.
So I am not big enough, and I never will be. I'm just in Maine. I don't have connections in LA. So what I got with the Ghost Trap was a one-shot deal. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the reason I ask is because if you ever need any actors...
I know. Well, I've got other screenplays under my arm, and I do have some connections with the film industry here in Maine. So I will keep you in mind.
Well, I hope so.
Especially if we need a merman. So,
yeah,
okay.
That's kind of what I do here. And then I used to do theater in high school, and my parents are always like, particularly I have this one uncle, shout out to Uncle Brian, who is always like, you should be in one of those cop shows. So I'm always looking for funny side quests, and I'm always looking for an into the film industry. So if you ever need an extra just in the back, let me know.
I will. And believe me, I'm keeping my radar on. From what I understand with Hollywood right now, Hollywood has been floundering since COVID, and the rise of the independent film industry has just gone bonkers. And that has come in from YouTube as well. I mean, there have been 2 independent films from 20-something.
Backrooms and Obsession. Yeah.
And that is so hot on the radar right now with what you want to call Gen X, probably more boomer producers who are used to, like, you know, bean counting and risk averse.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing these 2 young filmmakers just shoot out of the universe with their great films is starting to shake up Hollywood a little bit more.
Do you know the director? I'm forgetting who the director for Obsession is, which is kind of sad. I know Kane Parsons was Backrooms.
Yeah, I don't know either of the directors, but I know your age.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And with Obsession particularly, he made comedy skits on YouTube before making Obsession.
It's almost like we're going full circle because YouTube is where people got discovered in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe what we should say to the creatives is you don't need to write a screenplay and hope that you'll get discovered. Just take your iPhone and shoot shorts.
Right, absolutely. And bring something that isn't the status quo, right? Because
Make it authentic. You have to have it your view, your perspective, and your background. Don't try to follow somebody else's formula. Make it you.
And that's why you see with modern Hollywood, like Hollywood's, like you said, Hollywood's struggling right now because they're constantly making, like Disney's a great example of this, live adaptations. Live adaptations.
And no one's going.
Nobody cares. You know, we've already seen it. You know, and you're
and
trying
reboots
to...
and remakes and reboots and remakes.
And sequels and remakes.
Let's see something original. I think you're millennial.
I'm Gen Z.
Gen Z?
Yep.
Gen Z wants original. Gen Z wants authentic. Gen Z doesn't want rehashed.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's so worn out. Right? It's so... Like the reboots and the replays, it's so worn out. Nobody
Do you
cares.
guys actually find more comfort and joy and fun in old 80s movies? And
Absolutely.
90s? So that was when the things were original.
Like The Breakfast Club?
Yes.
Yeah, The Breakfast Club is fantastic. It's original, right? Versus, you know, another live action Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Or let's use the example of The Crow. The original Crow. The original The Crow.
Like the movie with
Brandon Lee.
Brandon Lee?
Yeah. Hit. It was a huge hit in the 90s. Yeah. I lived it. I was part of it.
Yeah.
And once Gen X started to see a reboot of that, no one who was an original The Crow fan, I mean, this was a cult movie.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted to see it. I still have never seen it, and I've heard it didn't resonate.
You know, another one is Scream, right? Scream. Scream, like, the first ones are really good. But it's gotten to the point where it's like, okay, you're starting to lose the plot. And the whole thing about Scream was that it was never supposed to be taken seriously.
Right.
It's not a Scream movie if Ghostface does not get as bodied as his victims, right? He gets beat up all the time. It's so funny, right? And that was the appeal to Scream. And I've been a longtime Scream fan, right? But you see all these new Scream movies coming out and you're like, this isn't the same. Now you're making Ghostface a serious character.
Yeah. I'm just not watching films these days, so...
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nothing's making you want to watch it. I mean, watching films, much to the likes of listening to podcasts, is a very big time commitment. So it has to be worth your time.
And so is reading a long book, too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it has to be worth your time. And goodness, nobody has time these days.
I know. We're a very short attention span society now, thanks to the internet. And
that's another problem, right? Because the media that's getting the most popularity is the short form now. Yeah.
Well, then that means that storytelling hasn't died. It just needs to change to fit where the audience craving is.
Absolutely. For sure. And that's kind of why, like, I have a buddy, he does like those street interviews. And street interviews, I look at that and I'm like, that is not my thing. Remotely. I don't find it remotely interesting. And he's doing very well because that's what people like these days in terms of like media content. People love those street interviews. People love that shock value, you know, because he's asking questions and I kind of sit there with my jaw on the floor like, did you really just ask them that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And that's what people like.
Yeah, they do. So we got to go with that.
Yep. So going back to the Ghost Trap, because I definitely want to spend a little bit of time chatting about that as well. It's a great movie. It's a very raw movie. And there is not a single accurate Maine accent in it.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what. If that's the one that's the one thing we got over and over again. And I still laugh about it because I would sit in front of film festival audiences. It's always the question we would get. And the thing is that, Zach Steiner's he's in LA now, but he's an East Coast kid. And we told him, we said, you as much as you are emulating it, you're never going to get it. Don't try it. Don't try it too hard. Stephen Ogg, really excellent actor, and he was so intense as the dad in the movie.
Oh yeah,
and he did hit some notes on it, but they all sounded more Boston than Maine.
Right.
And but we were like, guys, I'm telling you right now, just try to just be yourself. I mean, don't sound like you're from a Valley boy from LA, but don't try to go so hard Maine, because you're going to end up in the parody era of, what was it? Oh, what was that movie?
Which movie? Is it a Maine movie?
It was like a Stephen King movie that some actor tried to emulate the Maine accent.
Cujo, Pet Sematary.
Pet Sematary,
yeah.
Fred Gwynn.
Yep. Oh.
Oh my God. Sometimes I come back.
Yikes.
No, it's just not going to be.
Every time he goes, Anya, I'm like, you're a great actor. You're doing fantastic. Was your accent training the Boston Sea Monster video?
Yeah,
Have you watched
they
that
were
video?
they were definitely channeling Boston. But hey, I'll give it to them, because I've lived here for 32 years. There's no way I'm gonna try to emulate it at all. I can't do it.
Yeah, I've lived here my entire life, and I still don't do a Maine accent.
I can write it. I can't speak it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes you see an authentic Maine accent, and you're like, that is a Maine accent. I can't even attempt that.
No, and believe me, my lobsterman friends were like shaking their heads, like, no. Just don't.
Yeah, fair enough. Have you watched the video of the Boston Sea Monster?
No.
It's a video. It's these two boat guys in Boston, and they come across a sunfish, like the big mola mola, and it's kind of on its side sunning.
Okay.
And he's like, "That's a tuna or something. We got to get that thing in this boat, Jay."
Oh no. Oh,
it's like Moby Dick.
It almost becomes like, drink if their accent starts to jar a little bit. Here we go, take a sip,
Oh yeah, no, we gotta get that thing in this boat, Jay. And it's a very funny video. Yeah, no. And then, was the movie sponsored by Allagash White?
I got it. You and the other podcaster said the exact same thing. Oh my God.
Because it's I'm like, there is no way this guy.
Listen.
Okay.
Listen.
Okay.
I tried.
It was great. No,
I
it's
tried
good.
to tell them. I said, no lobsterman's going to be drinking Allagash White.
And you knew that.
Of course I knew that. Yeah. It was going to be Twisted Tea. It was going to be Pibba. It was going to be
Uncle Alan.
Nasty Gansett. It was going to be something. It was going to be Little Nips, but it was not going to be Allagash White. But you have to realize, in the film world, and you can only show certain products if they've been cleared, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we got the clearance on Twisted Tea. I don't think we could have gotten the clearance on Pibba, because it would have been way too expensive. And hey, credit to Allagash White. It's one of the best. It's like one of the best selling beers in Maine. I'm not knocking it, because also I love Allagash White, but
I do too.
But it just was not fitting the scene with the lobsterman drinking Allagash White. I can't tell you. I mean, if you're from here, you know.
But if you're not from here, you would not know.
No, they would know.
It's I saw that and I'm like,
Hey, we call this movie magic, okay?
Yeah, no, definitely.
And the other question we get is like, how did Jamie get Anya back on the boat, right?
Right.
On the lobster boat, right?
Yeah.
And I always say, there was one of those little ladders, you just didn't see it. It was off camera, you didn't see it.
Totally. Yeah, no. And I loved the movie.
Yeah.
I genuinely loved the movie. I'd imagine if they were drinking liquor, it'd probably be like Alan's Coffee Brandy, Uncle Alan.
Well, I mean, that almost goes too stereotypical, because
that's fair.
Yeah, because I hung out with lobstermen. I mean, they're all about the buds.
Yeah.
Budweiser.
Oh, Budweiser.
Yeah, I love
Bud
the Budweiser. And, there's, a couple shots here and there, but not, mostly I think lobstermen, if I'm not incorrect, really in the 90s drank Bud Light a lot. Mm-hmm. Bud Light, because they like to crush like a 12-pack, and it's too filling if it's regular. So you had to get a really light beer.
That's very true. Yeah, that makes sense as well. Have you been to Monhegan Island by any chance? So do you know the Monhegan lobstering community?
Yes, because one of the Highliner lobstermen who invited me over there was on Survivor.
Oh, whoa.
And every time I'm on a podcast or camera, I start to blank. I'm going to get it.
That's okay.
I'm actually going to keep her name private.
Sure.
And she invited me, and she said, nobody knows you're writing a book, and you're not going to say a word about it.
Whoa.
And she said, here's the thing. I'm going to invite you into my crowd, and you're going to spend the weekend with me, and we're going to hang out in the fish shack, and we're going to drink rum, and we're going to talk shit, and we're going to just let you observe, but you will never mention that you're a writer.
So it's almost, at that point, you're almost doing the work of a cultural anthropologist.
Yeah, undercover.
An undercover cultural anthropologist.
Yeah, and then when we went back to her house, I was just scribbling notes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then
yeah.
she was one of the people I gave the whole novel to make sure it was authentic.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's super, super cool. I have family members, particularly, did you go out of Port Clyde to get to Monhegan?
Probably. This was, oh my God, this was like 2001.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you'd know Captain Barstow is my aunt's husband's dad.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. So my family is connected to the Laura B, which is that boat that goes from Port Clyde to Monhegan. Mm-hmm. And we all know that the Monhegan lobstermen take their craft so seriously.
Oh, so very seriously.
Yep. And as scuba divers, like, I dive in the water and occasionally I see a lobster trap. You are told to keep a very wide berth from it.
Same with Matinicus.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if you get caught, you better hope it's Marine Patrol that finds you.
Well, I guess you're going to like the first chapter of The Ghost Trap then.
I'm so excited.
Because that didn't make it into the film.
Oh, it didn't?
No, we did a whole scene on that.
Oh, okay.
You're basically leading into the first chapter right now.
Okay, perfect. So, folks, you should definitely read The Ghost Trap because I just totally, if this is not a good pitch for The Ghost Trap, I don't know what is. So, I usually like to end my podcasts with a bit of a funny question, but for you, I have a pressing question that has been just toiling in my mind, and I want you to get the chance to just explain and stick up for the craft. What do you have to say to the folks that say Anya deserved better?
Okay, well, my brother was head injured.
Okay.
And he didn't get better.
Oh, wow.
He got better, but he deserved better.
Sure.
So when I wrote this, I saw the pain and how many years he had lost and the heartbreak of the people who left him.
Yeah.
And the heartbreak of never having his youth back.
Wow.
And I saw him be resilient and get beyond it. And when I wrote the character, I was not going to hold her to any lighter of a standard.
Wow. That's really powerful. And I'm really thankful you shared that. Yeah, because I saw a lot of people and I don't think that they knew that was the motivation behind that.
Yeah.
Who just had this like, oh, how could Jamie do that to Anya?
Yeah.
Right. But it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah. Oh, it's so much deeper. And like I said, I mean, and no spoilers or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
of course.
People have already kind of gotten the sense this is not going to be you're going to be walking out of the theater skipping and, singing songs. But what you're going to realize when you read the book or watch the movie, there is absolute love and loyalty in this entire family and within Jamie and Anya.
Yep.
The loyalty is there, but life doesn't always turn out the best that you want it to be, and your life doesn't always turn out the best that you want it to be. And isn't that the harshest lesson that some of us have ever had to learn?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And that is why The Ghost Trap is such a powerful novel, because there is no hiding from the reality. There is no shield from that reality. There is no skipping off into the sunset ending. And I think that those are the novels that people resonate with the most.
I think they are. And people have asked me if I'm ever going to write a sequel. I don't think so. I think this is a standalone, but I do like to imagine where Jamie is after the math and where the whole family is. And I can only say that if you are doing the work in your life and you are going through the pain that you have to go through in your life that you never asked for, you're going to be given a strength and a resilience that will overcome almost anything else that is ever going to be thrown at you again.
Wow. Yeah. That is a really, really powerful ending to this episode of Between the Piers.
Yeah, you didn't expect that, did you?
No, I didn't. Not even remotely. I'm thankful that you shared that. And yeah, we chatted about a lot today.
Yeah, we did. We hit it all.
We did hit it all. And I am so thankful that you made the trip down here. We talked about Rockland as a rum running place.
Yeah.
We talked about, the Ghost Trap and how that became a film. We talked about spirituality in Maine. And we talked about Almost Maine, which is a fantastic play. And I definitely would suggest watching it.
I'm going to.
Yeah, definitely. And if you ever have any interest in mermaiding, I can set you up with mainly mermaids. And I can set you up with a good Netflix documentary called Mer People.
Okay.
Which kind of highlights the culture of mermaiding.
You definitely have me interested on that.
Great.
So.
Sounds good. Awesome. Kay, thank you so much for being here. And everybody, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much for having me too. This was so much fun.
Yeah, it's such a joy. And if you ever want to come back on,
okay.
The door is always open.
Oh.
And if you ever need an actor for any of your stuff, let me know.
I gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. And as always, stay weird, Portland.